Do 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 do. Isn't the countdown supposed to? Oh, it's nearly finished. It's nearly finished. Yes. Welcome to Shelfside Spurs Show on today, Star Wars Day. May the 4th be with you.
Be with you.
Be with you and all who sail in you.
All who sail in you? Yeah, something like that.
Correct? May the 4th be with you and all who sail in you. That's the line, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I thought. Anyway, welcome to Shelfside Spurs Show. How are we all? How are you, Nick? How are you? I haven't spoken to you since earlier today.
I've got a bit of a different camera angle and a bit of a glow. I don't know what's going on, but
yeah, I'm looking terribly washed out myself.
How are you? You're washed out.
I am. I don't know what's going on. Yes. Well, here we are for another hour and a half, 90 minutes.
Yeah, maybe a bit less. Depends how much our guests talk.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, we've got two guests today who both of them are making their debuts. They're Shelfside Spurs Show virgins, really.
Yeah. One of them has been
on before. One of them has been on before, I believe.
Have they?
I think so. Anyway,
was it Keenan or was it Kel? Are you sure which one it was on?
One or t'other. But the one thing I'll say is that we should treat them both as if they are the Shelfside virgins that they should be.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, should we look at the chat first before we bring them on? Let's build the suspense a little bit, because I think
suspense. While we're doing that, I will just put this up.
Yes.
While we're doing that. So have you lambasted the like button? I've gone all res. I've channeled my inner res there. And obviously sticks and stones may break your bones, but chains and I was sorry, that wasn't supposed to be in there.
Yes, it was.
That was.
Yes, it was. Okay. You love it. Okay. You love it.
Yes, we do. Let's see who else is loving it. We have Bobby K.
Yes.
Gold Hearts.
He likes the whip and chain action. I know this for a fact.
I've heard that of him. Chris Horry from Bordeaux Spurs, purple and gold until we are sold before we are too old. Looking forward to more of your wise words. Obviously talking about you, Rez, not me.
No.
Big up, Stuart. Rez, Nick, Sai. I don't know who Sai is. Maybe Stuart meant Sin. Jacob's in the house. Big up, Rez and Barreled. And also, Jacob, you're wrong. It's not the worst countdown. If you've seen the dancing lizards or whatever else we've had on there. Phil P is in the chat. Woo! We have the Sheriff, Mark Cousins.
Yep.
We have
Sheriff
Andrew Gregory.
I think calling him Sheriff Mark Cousins undercuts his authority somewhat.
Sorry,
call him Sheriff Cousins. And
Sheriff
wherever
Cousins,
possible,
the catfish.
Wherever possible, use a sort of that sort of Wild West accent. Sheriff Cousins.
He's Sheriff Cousins. Yeah.
Sheriff
Cousins, reckon he's got a like Woody. He's got his name on his boot. Like
he's got what?
Name on his boot.
Oh, I see. I thought you said he's got a Woody. I thought I don't need to know that.
I mean, he might do. He
probably does. But I mean, Jacob's around, so everyone's got a Woody. But,
exactly. Andrew Gregory is here. Big up Andrew Gregory. Ishak is here. Big up Ishak. Nice seeing you, Rez and Kim at the protest.
Yes,
big
indeed.
Up, Ryan Edits. Hi to everyone.
What's up?
Peter Simons. Big up Leo from Mile High Hotspur. Ryan McFarlane. Long time no see. And Custom Spoons.
Custom Spoons. Excellent.
Interesting choice of avatar there. But
I think so. Very quickly, just warning everyone. Okay, please, right? Until the 10-minute mark has been reached, please don't say the word cunt.
It's gone over 10 minutes.
That includes the countdown.
Yeah.
So whatever you do for the next 5 or so minutes, please don't use the word cunt. Okay. There we go. I just thought I'd get it out there.
Right? You get it out there. So should we bring our guests on?
I think we should. I think it's time.
Being sat there, nice. I mean,
one of
these. I mean, one of these guests has. Hang on. One of these guests looks like he's gone all like studio-like and professional.
Yeah.
With like cushions either side of him. Don't worry, it's not expressions, guys. All right, he's not. No. He's not come on. Right, no. Because he obviously
we did ask him, but he said no way, blood.
no way, fam.
I've
been on enough white channels this week with Ben and Sim, right? So he's he can't diversify that much. Big up expressions. Nick, if you haven't seen it, look. If you haven't seen it,
10 inches here, Nick. 10 inches here. Be wary. He is.
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
10 inches. So yeah, big up. Yeah. So if you have missed it, go over and see Expressions on with Ben and Sim. The funniest show for a long time, other than this one, obviously. So
absolutely.
So yeah, should we get them on?
I think we should. I think it's time.
Any particular order? Same time?
Yeah, same time. Do you want to you do the one who's like third in the row? I'll do the one who's fourth in the row, and then we'll do it together.
3, 2, 1, click.
Yeah.
3,
oh shit. Oh. I thought you were doing it.
All right. What is it? 3, 2, 1, click. Yeah?
Yeah.
3, 2, 1, click. Now
there you go. Welcome, gentlemen.
Hello.
Welcome. We have Phil P. actually with us. That's like quadruple. Woo! And
massive.
Exactly. And the one, the only, apart from his brother, from We Are Tottenham TV, it's Sim Daniel.
Come on. Big up.
Big up. Whose birthday was it, Sim? Was it someone's birthday?
That's me. I don't want to get you a copyright strike. I heard you're quite
Obi-Wan.
It doesn't matter. We're fine, Sim. We're fine with copyright strikes.
Absolutely fine. We collect them.
Don't
like badges of honor.
Was it someone's birthday, Sim? There seems to be birthday presents behind.
It was my flatmate's birthday. Don't worry about that.
All right.
It was my birthday on Tuesday. Where's my present, Sim?
Oh, I'll send you one of these cards. Which one?
Yeah.
I'll send you one of them.
The only thing I like better than a crossed out name on a used birthday card is just a random card.
Absolutely.
Like, get well soon.
Yeah, that's right. Happy get well soon.
Get well soon. Exactly.
Stuart is one of our fathers.
Whoa, shit.
Or all of our fathers.
Oh, here we go. Bobby K's started already. Is this a no token panel? Yes. Bobby K,
Yes.
it's a no token panel. Yeah,
Yes.
sorry.
Absolutely.
Just this week.
We're fairly tokenistic, aren't we?
Yeah.
You got your
let's check in. Let's check in properly. Let's check in properly.
Phil. See what Sim said? You got your token Jew here, haven't you? So it's fine.
I'm half Greek, half Irish. You know?
There you go. There you go. We're from all over the planet. Well, Europe anyway. So, guys, let's start with you, Phil. Welcome to the Shelfside Spurs Show. We know for a fact that you are a Shelfside Spurs Show virgin.
I can't believe it. I can't believe it.
Yeah, it's brilliant to have you. How have you been?
I've been phenomenal, and obviously this is like another thing ticked off my bucket list. And I can't think of 3 nicer people to spend Star Wars Day with, you know. And obviously there's only a limited amount of Thursdays left before we're going to be playing, you know, a bunch of farmers or mechanics, and that's with no disrespect to those professions whatsoever, because I dare say they're doing more good in their communities than our professional footballers are doing in their North London community. So, you know, big up.
Bang on the money.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me on. It's an honour. After the dregs of humanity that I usually associate with, both in real life and on YouTube, this is now, you know, bang. I've reached the pinnacle.
Compared to the dregs of humanity that I usually hang around with, you guys are the dregs of humanity. We are. That's true.
If this was Moss Isley, you guys haven't had your arms chopped off yet, you know.
No, not yet.
So it's fine. It's all good.
Yeah,
but it is a wretched hive of scum and villainy.
Exactly. You better be careful. But that basically, Moss Isley, that cantina was probably the wrong side of the Seven Sisters Great Divide. Basically, that was somewhere in Finsbury Park.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, although exactly. if it had been on the Tottenham High Road, all the drinks would fill from the bottom.
True, very true.
Yeah.
Actually, maybe that got turned into Rowan's, the bowling alley in Finsbury Park. Later on in life.
Yeah, I've been there. Yeah, that's a hole. That is a hole. I mean, I live just up the road from Finsbury Park, so obviously every time I step out my doorway, I've got to wear a gas mask. So
yeah. Rez is in bandit country, definitely.
I really am. You should see the hordes of roving mutants dragging their knuckles across the pavement.
Well, many moons ago, I used to live in Crouch End, the Hornsey End, and there was a beautiful pub, and we used to go in there, and the drinks were superbly cheap, and the landlady was fantastic, and she'd bring out, you know, plates of roast sausages and sausage. And,
I've been there. What, the one in the corner, just at the bottom of the hill?
Yeah. And no, near the cop shop, well, what used to be.
Yeah.
I can't remember for the life of me the name of it. It's changed to some sort of generic Irish surname now. But anyway, the first North London derby I watched in that pub, I thought I'm literally like way outnumbered here, and there's probably the hardest looking human being I've ever seen in my life. And he was wearing an Arsenal shirt, and they obviously went ahead. And I thought, it's probably just me and my brother in here that are Spurs. But when we equalised and we went mental, it was about half and half. So it really was reflective of the community, because it is literally halfway between the two grounds. Well, the two grounds now, obviously not the original Woolwich base of operations. But anyway, lovely to be on. And Sim, nice to meet you. How are you?
Nice to meet you too, Phil. I'm doing very well, thank you. I have previously popped my Shelfside Spurs cherry. Actually, I was wondering if when I'd last been on, and I looked on your channel, and the last video you uploaded was me at the North London Derby with Rez. And that was a happier time, shall we say.
That's right. Yes.
Happier time.
Much happier.
That's right. But we haven't, I can't remember if we've had you on the panel before, though.
That's never happened. That's never happened.
Yeah.
No, we had Keenan, Daniel. Now we got
So fantastic. Really, thank you very much, guys, for joining us. It's an absolute joy to have you. So yes, I think that Mr. Producer, you have something lined up for us.
We have three. Being Star Wars Day, we want it to be quick. I've put all of the 3 Star Wars movies in the trilogies that they are, and I just want to know, no explanation, just quick fire. What's your favorite out of the 3? So obviously we'll start.
And
with
I'm the arbiter. I'm the arbiter here. So
we'll
the 3 of you tell us.
So Phil, your favorite out of the first 3?
Empire.
Sim?
It is Empire, but when I was younger, growing up, it was always Return of the Jedi. That was always my
I'm the same, actually. I'm the same.
Mine's Return of the Jedi, purely Princess Leia, Jabba the Hutt. Just what else could you?
I used to recreate that opening scene with Luke entering Jabba's palace so often.
Yeah, the question that comes up with that, Nick, is which one did you fancy and which one did you resemble?
I fancied Jabba and I resembled Leia. Yeah.
That's what I thought. That's what I thought it was. I just wanted to check. Yeah. Obviously,
different cup size, though.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
Slightly.
Obviously, you're wrong. The best one is Empire, but we'll let you off on that.
Okay. The next one's going to be controversial. So, Sim.
Oh. Yes, again, I've got 2 answers. My favorite one now is Revenge of the Sith. Growing up, it was Phantom Menace. I loved the Phantom Menace when I was growing up. I used to love the Jewel of Fate tunes coming in when Darth Maul fights Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan. That was like one of my favorite scenes. But yeah, now I watch them, and Revenge of the Sith is by far the best. The other 2 are barely watchable at this point. I can't watch them.
Yeah.
Good.
Jar Jar Binks. You know.
Oh God, I used to love them when I was like 8 years old. But
I'm going to kill him in a minute if he mentions Jar Jar Binks again. Phil,
I'm not sure I can name any. To be fair, I do look back more fondly on them now, having watched them with my kids and sort of enjoyed it through them, and also anyone who's gone deep into it and watched the Clone Wars and things, it's actually put it in a bit more context. So I'd probably, again, Sim, sorry to be boring, but I'll probably agree. But I'd say probably Phantom Menace, because when you think that, you're expecting it to build to a crescendo, and for the turn, for the Vader turn to be so big, and for him to just stand there and shout no in the way that he did, which I almost recreated again. I'm just like, this is like the biggest fail ever, and I'm like, what is this? But now it's immortalized in plastic somewhere in the house, because you can get that scene in Lego. So I'm sure it's somewhere upstairs. The boy, obviously the kids. It's the kids, not me. But yeah, I'd probably say Phantom Menace. But
it's definitely the kids. Definitely.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. Revenge of the Sith for me. I'm going the third one and the third one.
Yeah.
Just because I think it then brought it nicely to a conclusion a little bit. I mean, look, there was flaws in probably all of them, but it just kind of it was just good to see it then how it would then play into the next 3, which leads us nicely on to the next.
Hold on. You need some commentary here.
Okay.
The correct answer is, of course, Revenge of the Sith, but there's a second point here which needs to be addressed to Jacob from United Spurs.
Yeah. Sorry. Okay, hang on.
Saying, what's up with the Jar Jar hate? Now, Jacob, you have a very short period of time with which to redeem yourself from that ridiculous comment. I leave it to you to decide how to do it. But Jar Jar Binks is essentially an abomination unto Star Wars. So that's why. Yeah.
Okay. There's also a question from Jacob. He says, can someone please tell Sim? I think he's great at doing play-by-play. Tried to tell him during the World Cup, but they too popular for my comments. Well, you know what, Jacob? Put a super chat in, mate, next time. Put a super chat next time, and then I'll get read out. Yeah?
What I love there is, generally, obviously, it's giving you a lot of praise there, Sim, but also there was a bit of shade in there as well. The best type of compliments. It's the best type of, it's like me having an appraisal again. It's like my boss being in the room. Mostly good, but here's a bit of a backhand as well.
Yeah. No, you can't redeem yourself that way. Jacob.
Oh no!
There are people out there who are no
Jar
longer
Jar
moist.
Winks, surely.
Yeah, exactly. Jar Jar Winks.
Okay, but
He's
there are
about as
people who
popular.
are drying up at the moment, Jacob, with your love of Jar Jar. All right, you moisten people usually, but they're drying up. That's how bad it is. Okay, sort yourself out, brother. Sort yourself out. Anyway.
Right, the final three.
Yeah,
it wasn't supposed to take long.
There's only one correct answer in this, guys. And
is there?
If you don't get it, yes, there is.
There is, and it's none of them. I think that's the correct answer. They're
Phil,
all terrible.
Any takers on that?
I mean, Jesus wept. I'd just go for Force Awakens just because, like, you know, it was basically just a rehash of some of the old films, you know, with new graphics. But yeah, you know what? Maybe in 20 years' time, people that are of a certain age that grow up with these films will look back more fondly, a bit like the prequel trilogy. But yeah, I'm just trying to be nice there. Shocking, absolutely shocking.
I have to say, I didn't hate The Last Jedi as much as everyone else did. Like everyone else hated it. I thought it was not too bad, but I have to say, The Rise of Skywalker is not just like one of the worst Star Wars films I've ever seen. It's just one of the worst films I've ever seen. It's just horrendous. I was actually angry coming out of that movie, like furious.
Sim, you know the worst thing about it? I was actually okay in it up until my best mate was next to me and he turned around to me and I can't remember what stage it was at. But it was probably a good like half an hour in. I was, you know, I had a stupid smile on my face and he turned around to me and he said, "This is shit." And then I was like, it was like the scales had dropped from my eyes. I was like, Jesus, he's right. This is shit.
Are you sure, Phil? You sure you're at the cinema and you weren't watching Spurs?
Maybe that's all we need. Someone next to us at the game to go, you know what? This is shit. And suddenly we'll all be, yeah, Levy out.
Nick, what's your take?
I mean, look, I actually quite liked all three of them. I don't know whether that was because... Yeah.
No, you didn't.
The correct answer, of course, guys, is they're all shit. So, Sim, you get plenty of points for that one. I'm going to let him back in on the promise that he never says anything like that ever again. There you go.
He's had a mare.
He can come back in like Ahmed Best came back into Star Wars recently, but no spoilers, obviously.
Yeah. Anyway.
Big up.
So, never ever say anything like that ever again.
I would love to hear Nick's justification for thinking that they're not bad. They're not like the worst things he's ever seen.
Well, compared to 1, 2, and 3, I thought they were better than 1, 2, and 3.
Oh, no,
collective.
No. Weirdly, when you watch 1, 2, and 3, having seen 7, 8, and 9, you think, you know what? These aren't so bad.
Correct. I said Phantom Menace and Clone Wars and the Attack of the Clones were unwatchable, but then you put the Rise of Skywalker on. Like, okay, they're much better.
All right, I'm gonna redeem myself here. Rogue One brings it all nicely back together.
All right,
that was probably the best film. I never watched Solo, as whatever stupid line it was called.
It's shit
because it was just horrendous, right?
It was.
You know what? It's not as bad as people make out. I think the problem is he's just not Harrison Ford. Right? That's
he's nowhere near as charismatic as Harrison Ford. That's the truth.
It's also the other bad thing about the film is that it contains Emilia Clarke, who essentially can only act with her eyebrows.
There's nothing wrong with that, mate.
When she's talking, what's the language? I can't remember what the language is in Game of Thrones now.
Targaryen? No.
When she's good when she's speaking that language, but when she's doing English, she's pretty bland.
She's awful.
I can't believe it.
She's awful. She's
absolute Philistine.
Tim, the problem is Amelia watches this show and she's going to be absolutely devastated with this feedback. You know.
Sorry, Amelia.
Respect Amelia. Respect Clarky.
Sincere apologies for your inability to act. So yes, we've done May the 4th be with you.
Yeah.
Oh, actually, one thing I just want to add though, Rez, if I can.
Here we go. Of course we can.
Right, this will be the rest of the show then. Is I will actually give The Last Jedi a little bit of love because it did
You're out.
spawn
You're
the
out.
bad lip sync. Have you seen the bad lip sync?
True.
My
Yeah.
stick.
I will give you that.
Anyone who hasn't seen that, it's phenomenal, and it'll get in your head, and it'll be there forever. But it's probably a best thing to happen to a Star Wars film since Rogue One, probably.
Have you seen have you seen the other bad lip sync ones? The
Bushes of
Seagulls,
Love.
what's the other one?
Yeah, Seagulls.
Yeah, the Seagulls one, and there's one other one as well, which is really funny.
Bushes of Love.
That's it. Bushes of Love.
Amazing. It's absolutely amazing.
So definitely everyone out there who hasn't done it yet, just go to YouTube, look up bad lip sync, Bushes of Love, and
look,
did you say YouTube or did you say Pornhub?
YouTube.
Okay.
YouTube, believe me.
But listen, you've got to be brave to do this, because I literally had my heart in my mouth when I first put this in. But because my friend recommended it to me about 15 years ago. Snatch Wars. First time you search Snatch Wars, you're like, Operation U-Tree are going to storm the battlements anytime now. Not for the first time, obviously, probably for some of the panel, for at least two of the panel. But yeah, and that is the funniest thing, Star Wars spliced with Bricktop from Snatch. It's amazing. Brilliant. And weirdly, also, he is more menacing. He is more menacing as a Cockney gangster.
Another Star Wars thing to YouTube, if you haven't seen it, it's quite an old one. Look up the Vader sessions, which is amazing. It basically takes a whole load of old James Earl Jones films and clips from his films and just superimposes them onto Darth Vader, and it is the funniest thing you've ever seen in your life. It's amazing.
I'll tell you what's not funny. And that's Mufasa when he dies. That's not funny.
No, that isn't funny.
Speaking of James Earl Jones,
that is true.
Funny.
That is true. He could have.
Anyway,
we can tell from this conversation how desperate we all are not to talk about Tottenham. I think
we're not going to.
Oh, fantastic!
You are in a bit, but no, we're going to do a little rant. We're going to do a little rant in a minute. We're changing things up this week.
Yeah,
we're going to do a little rant. Rez is going to have his little rant because it does involve the Liverpool game, and then both of you will get a chance to rant about something.
Yeah.
And maybe I will as well. I don't know. I haven't thought of anything yet.
You should. You should, Nick. You should rant.
Yeah, I will do. But anyway, Rez, your rant, sir.
So my rant, before I do that, mate, I did this by accident and I changed it.
That's what she said.
No, it's fine. You can bring it up. It was more the theming. You see, we usually use the bubble thing, and for a while we'd done that because I made a mistake earlier.
Yeah, who did that? I never did that.
It was me. I did it by accident. Sorry about that.
So have you changed it back now?
Yeah, you can see.
Barry's rant's going to be about Rez, I think.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah, no, that's right. And also, I'll bring the display names back as well because I changed that too. Anyway,
I wonder where they were.
Yeah, my rant. Which, to be honest, that's a big thing. That's a big no for me because if you see, Phil has properly got into things with his name. Oh, it was there. It's not there anymore.
Yeah.
He had. It's a trap, which is just perfect. But never mind. Anyway, my rant. Yeah. So it's about the Liverpool
I'll
game.
splice it in with something else in a bit, Red. Keep you on your toes.
That'll work. Yeah, that'll work. My rant. Yeah, we're not gonna dissect the Liverpool game. We all saw it. We all saw what happened. So many things. The thing for me, what. Again, we come back to really piss poor officials, really just unbelievably poor refereeing, and the fact that the winning goal for Liverpool was scored by Diogo Jota, whatever his fucking name is, when he should not have been on the pitch. Okay, there is no excuse for what happened. Ollie Skip could have lost an eye on Sunday. His career could have been ended on Sunday, and the only thing that shitbag referee gave Jota was a fucking yellow card, right? That was the guy should be on like Mitrovic, yeah, for putting his hand on the referee. Apparently that's worth an 8-game ban, but nearly blinding a player is not even worth a single game ban, let alone a sending off, let alone a longer ban. Okay, look to yourselves, PGMOL. See what you are. Okay, you are not fit for purpose. All right, why don't you pack up and piss off and get some people who can actually do the job to referee games? That's my rant.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I mean, I think seeing it live, it didn't actually look that bad, but on reflection, it was very bad.
Rez, why don't you say what you really think about the standard of refereeing
I wanted to sugarcoat it a bit, Phil.
Rez, the thing I would say, right, is the thing that I don't think many people have sort of discussed about this wasn't just the incorrect decision that we could, we'll just call it that. Yeah. Because we don't want to drop too many C-bombs at this early juncture in proceedings, but it was the fact that the foul and everything else that went around it and the VAR check that led to that amount of added on time, which provided the time for Liverpool to go on and get the equaliser, the winner. So it is what it is. But look, the difficulty is, right, I don't believe in these things even themselves out or anything like that. But just like you are taught at any stage, in playing football at any level, you have got to play to the whistle. The referee is going to get things wrong. Referees have always got things wrong. They always will get things wrong. Yeah. We all thought that VAR was going to be this magical panacea that was going to cure all ills, and it's not, because guess what? It's just tech. The tech isn't perfect either. It's shit, but it's still interpretation of the rules by some blokes that are fiddling around with technology somewhere in West London. So it's the
issue for me with that is, I agree with you. I mean, I don't have an issue with referees occasionally making mistakes. The problem we've got is that our referees are so poor that they make far too many mistakes for them to be forgiven for the occasional ones they make. And that is because of the poor standards, because in the same way that the game as a whole has been infected with the influx of money, so has the PGMOL. And because people don't want to be referees. And so they'll take anyone. And the amount that these people get paid, here's something for people. Top level referees get paid a £75,000 retainer when they first qualify for top level things, right? Some of these people, now, referees used to do it for one-off payments for matches and used to do it for the love of it. These people are now professionals. They're supposed to meet a specific standard. Some of them are being paid £200,000 a year. £200,000 a year, that's 10 times, just under 10 times the average wage, right? They should be doing better. They should be held to account. And that is why, if the quality of their refereeing was better across the board, I'd say, all right, fair enough. That was a bad decision. It can happen to anyone. But if every week we'll see a different, a terrible standard set all across the board, and it's time.
Listen, it's shocking. It is shocking. Yeah. And you know what? And look, what I was saying earlier wasn't me trying to say, look, we've got to move on. It is. My point was, as a team, as a collection of players, and as a management, I know they're all passing through. God bless Ryan and the masonry position, but in the end, those are the cards that we were dealt. And you just don't pass the ball to the bastard that should have been sent off. It's that simple, really. We were still the architects of our own downfall. Of course you can blame the referee, because he does have literally blood on his hands. Look, I'm no expert. I'm not a referee. But if I go to look at the player who's on the floor, who might have been kicked in the head, maybe he didn't see the contact, but there's actual claret, maybe you might think to yourself, maybe the guy that went near him with his boot around his temple may have been endangering him, because there is now blood. But look, what I loved about your rant, though, Rez, most of all, is you veered into like dad commentary states where, obviously the worst thing you can ever say as a dad is, stop all this. Someone's going to lose an eye. And and to be fair, the ref and Jota are very lucky. If it wasn't that, old Benjamin Button, Ollie Skip, is hard as nails. And if he wasn't aging backwards from 55, I don't understand how someone can look so young but so old at the same time.
It's true. It is true.
Looks older than like Modric. Modric looks younger than him. It's crazy.
True. It's so weird. It's so weird. I love it. But this is a bit like comedy genius Frankie Boyle says about Michael Gove, isn't it? He says, how can someone look both childlike and a paedophile at the same time?
Oh,
not my words.
Oh,
not my
words. Anyway, moving on.
No comment.
Well,
so panel rants.
On what gone?
Panel rants. Panel rants.
Hang on.
No, just a point of what Rez was saying, like accountability. Yeah. I was watching a clip just today of in France. There was like a contentious decision about a referee not awarding a penalty for handball, and the media, like the equivalent of Sky Sports, basically had the referee on after the game, and he was able to explain his decision to them and gave clarity to the whole situation. We just don't do that. There's no transparency to the decision making in this country. But in terms of the process of VAR, it's a very frustrating one, because obviously we have this assistant referee that's supposed to correct glaring errors, but the actual process of VAR means that he actually can't intervene in that Jota situation.
Correct.
Because the referee has seen it and made a decision. VAR is only in place to advise the referee on when he hasn't seen an incident, or he's seen an incident wrong. So it's not actually to re-referee or re-referee decisions. If the referee's made a mistake, but he has seen, for example, if the referee has seen a foul in the box and he doesn't think it's enough for a penalty, but the VAR says actually there's a bit more into it than you think, if VAR can't intervene because the referee's seen the foul. But if the referee didn't see any contact and didn't see a foul, and the VAR can then says actually there was a foul there, then he can intervene. So it does still allow for referee mistakes. Essentially, that's how the process works.
From what I understand, that decision went to VAR. They checked it for dangerous play.
Well, I don't think it did. I think they check everything essentially in case there's anything the referee missed. But the referee gave Jota a yellow because he saw the foul, and there's from that point there's not much VAR can do.
Well, I mean, you're absolutely right, Sim, and it does lead into the whole standard of refereeing as well, because again, it's the people making these decisions are the referees. The people that are in the VAR booth.
Rez, I really thought you were going to say the people that are making these decisions are wank.
Well, referees, wankers.
Yeah, they're referees as well. I mean, whoever's in the VAR booth at Stockley Park on a given Sunday will be on the pitch refereeing a Premier League game the Sunday after, or the Saturday after. For me, it's and I think people mistake what I was saying in terms of thinking that the loss was because of the refereeing decision. It was, but we were the architects of our own destruction as well, because we were so shit. The thing you got to bear in mind is that the reason we managed to score 3 goals is because Liverpool are fucking terrible this year. Yeah. They are awful this year. That's what allowed us to put 3 past them. But we couldn't put 3 past Bournemouth. We're awful right now.
They thought the game was won, Liverpool. You can see that 3-0. They thought the game was won. They were passing it straight to us from the back four. They got complacent. That's the real reason. It wasn't even because they were bad. It was so easy that they thought the game was won after 15 minutes. And that's essentially what allowed us back in the game.
Yeah. It was their own complacency.
You could see how brittle both teams are psychologically when the defense is put under. Because obviously, Spurs, we can't defend our mother's good name in a slanging match. And Virgil van Dijk, I don't know what's happened. Well, Van Dijk, sorry, I should say.
Yeah.
I stole one from Expressions. I don't know what's going on. I actually don't know what's going on. For the drop off, I mean, I know he had that horrific injury. And I'm sure he'd be the best defender we had if he ever came to N17. But so weird. It's so weird. But correction, Rez, we did score 3 against Bournemouth in the away fixture.
That's what I mean. I'm saying we didn't. I'm saying we couldn't even score 3 past Bournemouth. We only scored 2.
No, in the away fixture we
in
did.
the away one we
in the away fixture,
we were doing the watch along, Res. We were going mad.
Don't pull me up on me pulling you up, mate. What is this?
No. I was talking about just the other day when they beat us at White Hart Memory Lane.
Res, you're in the mud. Yeah.
Listen, we're going to
remember that was the most.
I like it in the mud. All right.
If you remember, Res, it's the most liked video from a watch along this season.
True.
2,500 likes. I'm just saying.
True.
Just saying.
That's true.
Just saying.
You know, I think basically, Nick, is because we are Tottenham TV. You know, really slotted it home with that one and got the dream team on. So you know, that's what
waiting
happens.
Again. There's an open invitation.
Yeah.
Well,
I'm sure we can arrange
not
it.
Not waiting on me. You're waiting on him, not me.
I thought that you, Nick, could carry the magic by yourself. But I think it needs both of us.
Unfortunately, I can't. It doesn't work. The magic doesn't work as one. It works. I mean, there's magic, but it's not the magic.
Anyway, look, panel rants. I've ranted.
Yeah, let's do quick. You've hijacked the last 20 minutes talking about the referees being wankers, basically.
Do you know what it is about referees that really get them?
I want to hear what Phil has to rant about.
Yeah, me too.
And then Sim.
I didn't even have anything prepared, but I can just off the bat. You're talking about lack of accountability in the refereeing. I want to talk about the lack of accountability at any level in our football club, right? And this is one of the things I think a call to arms, and obviously not on Rez's level. Your inspirational call to arms the other day, Rez, had me welling up.
Oh,
mate, I mean,
I
was ready to storm the battlements. I was ready to storm the ramparts of Lily White House. The Phil Army was about to come over the high road. But no, look, at any stage, right, at any level in the club, right, you've got really good prospects from the academy not wanting to sign their contracts, being reported over the last few days. Yeah. Because there's no throughput into the first team.
Yep.
Who's taking accountability for that? We've got a captain who is basically has thrown one into the net in both North London derbies this year and hasn't missed a second of football because of it. Right? Ridiculous. And as some people have heard me go on about before, when he was caught drink driving, bits of carrot in his Porsche gearbox, should have been stripped of the captaincy straight away. Should have been doing up bench, but just played on regardless. No accountability. You've got directors of football who have wasted tens of millions of pounds that fans all over the globe have poured into the club, right? Ridiculous. And then obviously the players, and we've all seen the presser from our ex-manager, and apart from taking his own dose of accountability there as well, you've got to say that what he was saying about the players is correct. And what I loved about that was he threw the shade on the owners, but without saying it. He says, do you blame the owners for their 22 years and one cup? Do you blame all these managers, or do you start to look at the players? But it's got to the stage where, people talk about, would Poch come back and the same players have got so many managers sacked and work with them again? A lot of those players are gone. It's like Trigger's broom. The broom is not the same anymore. All the players over this time have been replaced, but we still can't win away at certain grounds. We still can't win semi-finals. But it's got to the point where we're not even getting to semi-finals anymore. Yeah. So we're not even at the races. And people talk about progress. And of course, we have made progress under Enoch, in many aspects. And you can look at average finishes, which is sometimes a debate that comes up. Yeah. But what's happened in the last 4 years has been downgrade after downgrade after downgrade. And look, I'm generally...
Can I just jump in on that, Phil, very quickly?
No, you can't.
No, you can't. Don't interrupt.
No.
Don't interrupt.
Go. I'm the host. I'll do what I want. And I agree with you 100%, Phil. The one thing.
Yeah. Anyway, Phil, you carry on, mate.
Instant karma.
So the thing I'd say,
You know what this is like? This is like the discussion in the boardroom after Levy saw that tweet with Donna throwing out the fish and chips order. Yeah. It was, this is your fault, Donna. You've got me in the mud again. Shut up, Danny.
Yeah, I agree with what you say, Phil, 100%. I don't disagree with you at all. I think what you say about the average finishes, I wanted to sort of look at a nuance on that, which is, as you say, people use that as to say, well, under ENIC, our average finish. The thing that they forget is that they're comparing it to what we were like in the 90s, where we were finishing, bottom half all the time. The thing they forget is that before that, we were one of the clubs that, consistently finished. I know we got relegated in the late 70s. It does happen, sure. But the point of it is that Spurs have always been a club that competed. They're using the 90s as the baseline and thinking that ENIC have taken us to heights that we've never been to before. Whereas the 90s were where we were at our lowest. At that point, there was only one direction to go but up. And so it's no real achievement, in my view, for them to have got us to where we are supposed to be. For me, and what's it called? Kim's dad, Arthur, talks about this. He met Daniel Levy in the flesh when they'd just taken over and talked to him about this. This is a man who has supported Spurs for nigh on 70 years, right? And he had a personal conversation, and in it, Daniel Levy said to him, we are going to take Spurs back to where they were. Not we're going to improve Spurs, where they were, And so for me, you can say they've made progress, sure, but make sure that you know where the baseline is to those that make that argument. Apologies, I just wanted to add that nuance.
Okay, you finished, Rez?
Shut up, you. Get on with your producing job.
Have you finished, Phil? Or
no, mate. I've got a couple more things I just wanted to add.
Okay.
Whether it's the whole 90s discussion, though, I think is a bit of a misnomer because, look, obviously, and to be fair, this is the worst thing. Well, not the worst thing. The worst thing is that we're shit. But the worst thing is, I was actually really optimistic and really happy. Kimber, when Levy and ENIC came in, because I was like, we got rid of Sugar, and the future is bright. And obviously, when you look back, it probably wasn't a good time to sack George Graham. But just like with Jose, there were certain amongst us that were happy at the time because we're like, well, we've got rid of the man in the raincoat, and now we've got Glenda in as a manager. Proper Spurs. We're going in the right direction. But the issue is, right, it's, yes, we improved, but what's the end goal? We haven't then gone on to the next level. Okay, we started to get Champions League. We all know that was at one point that was a pipe dream, right? Mm-hmm. But we got there. But then what's next? What's next? How do we keep improving? And I think the biggest criticism that anyone can have of the owners at the moment is that the same level of attention to detail and the same level of wanting to be the best of the best of the best with the stadium build is nowhere near mirrored in what the point of the football club is, i.e. the football. And the thing that really gets to me is, and we all fall into it, I fall into it, we talk about the business side and the football side. We're a football club. We're a football club. The last two letters in the acronym stand for football club.
Yeah.
Not effing C-bombs, right? Yeah. Even though that would work too. And look, we know that, the stadium's owned by a different company, and we've all got that sort of sword of Damocles hanging over our head. What if they sell, but they stay the landlords and keep the stadium, which, we all paid for? But let's not darken the mood by going down that rabbit hole. But the thing I think is, every waking moment that Daniel Levy, every night as his head hits a pillow, he should be thinking, what do I need to do tomorrow to get us a step closer to winning the Premier League? I want to win the Premier League in X amount of time, whether it's 5 years, 10 years, whatever. Get on that journey. Look, we all know we're up against it. The odds of us doing it are astronomical, facing Man City as they are now, facing state-backed football teams sports washing, whatever you want to call it. But in the end, that is what we have to try and do. We've got to strive to be the best. Yep. And that's the whole ethos of what Arthur Rowe and then Bill Nick supercharged and went on in the early 60s. That is what we have to live and breathe as a fan base and as owners and leadership. And as the next manager has to do this. And we are at a crossroads now, ladies and gentlemen, and we could go one of two ways. And my worry is, based on the track record of the last 22 years, I've got very minimal faith, i.e. zero, that they're going to get it right. And it's going to be half-assed, and it could be, and this is a technical term, a shit show. Anyway, in the words of Mr. Box Office, that's me done. Back to you, Rez.
Excellent
Back
rant.
to you, Rez. Back to you, Rez.
Round of applause, I think, for that rant. Brilliant, Phil. Brilliant work. Fantastic. Sim, your rant. Is it about power packs?
It is not about power packs, thankfully. Thankfully, I don't want to bore everyone. It's not about algorithms either. I do talk a lot about algorithms, but it's not going to be about algorithms this time. I didn't have one prepared, but for sure, when I talk about what I'm angry about at the moment, and it is obviously it's about the ownership, but it's more specifically about the managerial search that we're going through right now. So not only are we back where we were 2 years ago, but we haven't learned our lessons from where we were 2 years ago, because I've been saying this ever since Paratici has had those charges against him, and he was very likely to be banned from football. I've been saying this for like months and months, and all of a sudden it's now coming through to the press. What direction, from a footballing standpoint, are we going in? What do this board know what they want? Because the whole point, look, everyone's very frustrated with their lack of vision when it comes to, because you look at all the good clubs like Man City, even Man United have a way. Arsenal, they've got a process. Liverpool with Klopp, they've got a plan in place. You look at other up and coming teams like Brentford and Brighton, they're really upping their recruitment game. They're really basically making mugs out of Tottenham right now with how they're going about things. And essentially, we've not got a director of football right now, so we don't have someone who's going to implement, has a vision and a strategy for how he wants Tottenham to perform on the pitch, and a way to move forward from there. So now we're looking for a manager, right, to come in to head a rebuild and head a project, and someone we can all get behind. But we're interviewing these managers without a director of football, so they're now coming to us and saying, okay, what's your strategy? What's your project? What's your plan from a footballing standpoint? And we don't have the answers. We don't have those answers because we don't have a director of football. So we're having all these names banded about, Nagelsmann, whoever it is, right? And we don't have the answers to bring them in. We don't have the strategy. And if we're going to basically do what Phil was saying and be competitive, as we don't have the funds, we need to be smarter than the opposition. We're not just not smarter than them. We're behind like most other Premier League clubs. So we're falling behind. Even Brighton, we're falling behind. We're falling behind Brentford because of that lack of strategy, because of that lack of planning. And we were there. And you think about 2 years ago, what happened and why it's so important to have a director of football in place before the manager, right? What happened 2 years ago? When Mourinho got sacked, we heard Spurs are going to go for Potter. We're going to go for Ten Hag. We're going to go for, I can't remember who else. There was a few other names banded about, right? And then we were Fonseca. And then we were in talks with all these managers. And then Paratici starts working and he takes that manager list, rips it up, chucks it in the bin and goes, I want Gattuso, I want Conte, it ends up with Nuno. So there was no coherence between what was wanted between the hierarchy and this new director of football. So what happens if we convince a manager now to come in and then we get a director of football and he's like, well, this isn't quite the guy I want, actually. Like, this isn't, maybe there's some conflict there. And that's exactly the problem we have. So when we hear report, like I've been saying this for months, and then all of a sudden I'm hearing reports, Nagelsmann would be interested in the job, but he's concerned about the lack of strategy and the lack of project within the football. I was like, I've been saying, like, I'm a football fan. I'm not on the hierarchy. I've been saying this for months. If I can see it, why is this hierarchy burying their heads in the sand and not basically being accountable to the fact that these managers you're not going to convince them to come here and be successful and outsmart the opposition without a plan or a strategy in place. place. And now you're hearing managers say they have the same concerns. And it's like, this is mind-boggling to me. You're supposed to be running $1 billion football club, and you can't think of these things.
Well, this is
and
because
it's absolutely dreadful.
This is because we're not run. We don't have any football people on the executive board. And this is the thing, people don't get this. When I sit there and I name Daniel Levy, Donna Cullen, Rebecca Capelhorn, Matthew Collicott, John Turner, Scott Munn, when I name these people, it's because the fans have got to understand not one of these people has kicked a ball in anger, has ever played competitive football. They've never, let alone worked in it. They don't understand what it means. They don't understand what is involved. They don't understand what the purpose of supporting a football club is. They turn around and say, we're supporters too. I don't believe it for a second. It's like...
But Rez, don't you think, to Sim's point though, you're absolutely right. And of course, that is a problem. But that's a problem at most football clubs. There's not many football people involved at board level in many football clubs. And that is an issue.
True. I'm not sure that's true.
Okay, but I think one of the issues is that actually then makes it even more prescient that you go out and get a DOF ASAP. And what I don't understand, how can they say they were shocked by Paratici?
Everyone knew.
In the case, we were shocked
knew.
with the ruling. Yeah. Why are you shocked? We're just fans and we all knew.
Yeah.
Maybe he's not on Twitter. Maybe he's not on Twitter because of the hashtags and things. But no, look, Sim, you're absolutely spot on, mate, because this is the difficulty, right? You just think to yourself, if you were being ultra pessimistic or cynical, one could say that this is done purposefully because the delay in getting a DOF in is actually delaying getting a manager in. And then only once they're both through the door can they do a proper, inventory check of who's on the books, who do we want out. Because let's face it, all these guys on loan, they could come back. And as much as anyone was at that FA Cup game, they never want to see Tanguy again. But the new person might come in and say, I've watched this guy in Italy. I think he could. We've got zero creativity in the middle, especially with Bentancur benched or sidelined. Get this guy back in.
I agree.
And it's also stuff like Daniel Levy, for instance. One of the reasons why.
But don't you think, Rez, he might be doing this on purpose?
Yeah, well,
because
I think
all
it
the
is.
time,
and it's exactly this. This is what he does with player signings. One of the reasons that he would leave it as late as possible in the transfer window is just so he wouldn't have to pay them for time where they're not at the club. So we wouldn't sign a player to save on 2, 3,
but Rez,
4
I
weeks
actually think there's
wages.
another element to that as well. Like say Porro, look complicated deal, whatever, right? Don't you think there's also an element of if we'd signed him in the first week of Jan, we'd all be turning round, on all your shows, Sim, you'd have been having a discussion, right? Who's next? Whereas because that deal went on until the last day, all eyes are just on Porro.
That's all you talk about. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely right. 100%.
But I think a large part of it with Levy in these deals is his ego. I think that's the big stumbling block when it comes to making these deals because he has to win every negotiation. He refuses to blink. There's no meeting a middle ground with Daniel Levy, essentially. So these deals get dragged on because he basically won't budge an inch. And I think a lot of people now, a lot of chairmen have said, like, they're just sick of dealing with him. They don't want to deal with someone like Daniel Levy. And it's probably ruined quite a lot of deals because he's got such a massive ego about him. He has to win every single negotiation. And look, you could argue that him wanting the best deal for the club is not a bad thing because that gets the best price. But I think I'll just wonder how many times, right, that we might have got a deal over the line which we could have afforded, but because he wouldn't budge with his ego, the deal's gone flat. And I reckon that's many times.
Beyond that as well, Sim, it's also he doesn't understand. This is what I talk about him not having the ability to actually understand human beings. Relationships are valuable, but because you can't put a monetary value on it, he discounts it. And so what happens is that it's not just we could have got deals done, but because he messed them up basically by wanting that last little penny. There might have been deals available that are unavailable because people have had such a bad experience with him before. He might, someone from Spurs, or he might go and say, well, we want this player from you. And the chairman who's just dealt with him says, do you know what? After the shit that I had to go through over that player, I'm not even going to go into negotiations with this player. I've got better things to do with my time.
But Rez, I think I don't know what you guys think about this, but I actually, and it's something I've mentioned before, I think because of the radio silence we have from Levy, we do project a lot of personality onto him. We actually are just piecing together tiny crumbs of evidence and coming up with it. All we can tell is like the outcomes and the actions that we've seen at the end of it. It's counterproductive for me sometimes. Look, to your point, it generally is a good thing. And some of his hardcore stance has kept players at the club, or we've extracted the maximum value, say out of Bale or Berbatov. But the issue with Berbatov, particularly when we sold him, was we were haggling over what was it, another 2.5, 3 million, whatever it was. It might have been 5. But that took us way into, I think it was the last few hours of the transfer window, if I'm not mistaken. All that time, he was in the club. That transfer window ended after the season had, the season was well into it, wasn't it? It was the end of August, that transfer window. Yeah. And so we've limited our own options of actually going out there and getting replacements.
That's right.
As well as having a bloke who's clearly disgruntled, who's clearly knocking around the training ground, probably, going, I'm gone any day, guys, but, what can I do? Does anyone want to take free kicks with me? Sort of whatever. Or probably going around the corner, where the bikes are parked up and having a cigarette or something. Berbatov looks like the sort of geezer that would get up to that sort of thing. But look, to your point, Sim, as well, for Spurs, for us to really want to properly compete, we have got to be smarter and quicker than everyone else out there. And at the moment, we're slower and shitter.
Exactly. Quicker is another main thing. We are so slow to act every single time. We always say, look, just to case in point right now, this Paratici news has been around for months. There's no contingency planning. There's absolutely nothing going on. Conte's probably wanted gone for months. No contingency planning. We're just burying our head in the sand. We're like not making good decisions. We're just waiting for everything to fall apart before we start to act and panic and rush around doing this and that because everything's starting to fall apart. Everything's on fire. And now we're getting the fire extinguisher out trying to get it around, but the fire spread too far. That's the problem. Right. And it's very, very frustrating with this ownership. And the thing is, when we talk about the structure of this ownership, and like in terms of money, like we can all complain about money, but I do think, like, I really believe that in terms of the money available and stuff like that, there is enough to be successful. I don't, but like if we've done things the right way, like the 100%, if we made better, it's not like we're not able to compete because of the lack of money. I don't believe that. It's just the decision making is terrible. For example, everyone points to like Ndombele and Lo Celso and how we wasted all that money. But the reality is they're attacking players. They came to play under a manager who's an attacking manager, likes to play possession style of football. And 10 games into the season, we sacked him and hired Mourinho. And that's a completely different way of playing. And they're not suited to that. And like obviously they're not gonna be as efficient in that kind of system as they would have been under someone like Pochettino if we would have maybe stuck by him.
But weirdly, they both had good spells under Mourinho, didn't they? They both had good spells.
It all boils down ultimately to the fact that this man, Daniel Levy, and the whole executive board, because they all share responsibility, ultimately, are not fit for purpose. If they were fit for purpose, it doesn't matter. Some guy came up to me at the protest, and I was talking to him about this. Ben basically he was passing by. He was going towards the south stand, and Ben Ben Kaufman, big up to you, Ben. He said, "Are you Levy out?" He said, "No, aren't you going to join the protest?" And the guy turned around and said, "No, I'm Levy in." And Ben questioned him on it and said, "Why?" He said, "Because he's made us sustainable." Right? And this is a big problem. What you were talking about, Phil, about how we stand there talking about finance, when we're supposed to talk about football. And I tackled him on it, and I turned to him and I said, okay, if we're so sustainable, let me ask you this question. Arsenal have a very similar turnover to us. Very, very similar. It's in the range of about £350 million a year. How come they can go out and spend £500 million in the transfer market and spend it relatively well, as their performance, bottled though it is this season, is showing, and we can't? And he had no answer. You know, big up to you, Mark, if you're watching.
Yeah, but Rez, I want to actually say something about this, because two things that get chucked around an awful lot are, you know, you don't want to do a Leeds. Leeds have done a Leeds and come back up, and okay, now they're crashing and burning again. But you know, the football they played under Bielsa was different levels. But to go it from basically 12 months from Bielsa to Big Sam, Jesus. Anyway, the point I'm going to make though is
quickly, Phil, quickly, because we need to move on.
All right. Well, if you just don't interrupt me, it'll be over quick, all right? as I say to Mrs. P all the time. Listen, in the end of the day, as a director of any business concern, it's inherent in your role to keep your business solvent. You know, there's no gold stars being handed out because where have we gone?
Sorry, Phil. Sorry, I meant to do this first. Sorry.
You know what this is like? This is like watching my dad set the video recorder in 1988. Not a clue.
Carry on.
He never said it in his life, by the way. I don't know what.
See what happens when I'm not here. You see what happens.
Yeah, mate. You could have taken the washing in while you were gone, but you know,
mate, the washing's out there. It's airing, mate. It's been airing for 2 days. It's staying out there tonight.
As my mum would say, there's good drying out. But you know what I mean? It's like in there. It's in the job description. You're the director of a business. Keep it solvent. You know, I'm not going to give you a gold star, Daniel, for doing that. That's your job. No, but look, commercially, he's grown as a lot. But on the business side, everyone talks about a genius businessman. But what I would say, to throw a little bit of shade his way on the business side, how much money have we wasted on transfers? By his own admission, he admitted this in the Cambridge video. But also, no naming rights. We've been in this stadium now just over, and delayed, by the way, just and over budget by a quarter.
Correct.
And it's not peanuts, is it? It's £250 million. Yeah. But we've had no naming rights for 4 years. Yeah. Right. Most stadium bills like this globally would have a naming right sponsor on it from the day that we get planning permission. Correct. We've had planning permission for about a decade or so, haven't we? Yeah. So that's another thing. And look, in my reading of the Deloitte numbers that came out a few months back, the thing now that separates us from the other English teams is how successful they are on the pitch. Now, the problem is you can't quantify this. And I think this is the issue. And you know, God bless him on this front. I think ENIC are risk averse. So they're not going to go and splash an inordinate amount of cash in one transfer window to try and get us to the top of the league, right? But so they will think, right, because the difference, and you know, from a business point of view, why should they? Because the difference between fourth place, which seems to be our main objective, and first is actually not that great. So why are we going to spend 200 million to make whatever it is a 50 million pound difference? Correct. Right? It doesn't make sense. But look at Liverpool, look at Chelsea, look at Man City now. Their global revenue is higher than ours because of the increased global fan base. Now, look, we've got a phenomenal global fan base. You guys have got channels. You know how international the fan base is now. And, Jesus, we've got to capitalize on this stuff, but we don't. But look, I just think...
Anyway, that's enough of Phil.
Oh, that was rude. That was rude. Yeah. We're going to draw a line now, guys.
Nick is a referee. Nick's showing referee-style tendencies now.
He is. But
sending the wrong man off.
It's fair to say, guys, that we are broadly in agreement. Okay, we can categorically say that there is a major problem in the hierarchy at Spurs. It does need solving, and ultimately, really, guys, it does boil down to the sentiment behind purple and gold till Tottenham are sold. Maybe not necessarily sold, but a change in the hierarchy has to happen, okay? And we need to raise our voices and actually make ourselves heard and get change at Tottenham. But that's it. We're moving on now, guys. Thank you for your contribution.
But, Rez, can I just say one more thing, though?
Very briefly.
No, for any moderate people, and I know they won't, but for moderate people, I'll always make the argument. Because look, even staunch leave out people, right? Front line leave out people, like myself and you, a lot of you guys and girls in the chat at the moment. We know that we can't force them to sell. They're a privately owned company. We can't force them to sell. But by exuding more and more pressure and all the fight that's okay, the numbers in the protests aren't as big as we'd like them to be, definitely compared to Man U, but all the social media pressure, this may lead to better outcomes.
Correct.
Daniel Levy is under no doubt. He's under the gun at the moment, right? Yes. And I'm not talking about the team down the road. He knows he's got to get this next appointment right, or the pressure's just going to build and build and build. So even if you don't want him to go, even if you think he's doing a slap-up job, lend your support to Enoch out. Lend your support to the noise, because it may just mean that they're held to a greater level of accountability, which goes back to what we talked about earlier.
And that's no bad thing. Anyway, as we said at the top of the show, one of our, well, actually both of our guests are Shelfside Spurs Show virgins. And so we need to pop their cherries. Unfortunately, because Phil is sort of a very, very welcome late addition to tonight's show, we've only got time to do the cherry popping for Sim. But Phil, the next time you come on, we will do that for you. It is time for White Hart. Yes, indeed. We're going to do White Hart Memory Lane. That is what we are doing now, where we take our revered guest and ask him why, Sid? Why? You know, why Spurs? How did a wonderful, lovely, caring, beautiful person such a, how did you become a Spurs fan, Sim?
It was interesting when I was in primary school, when I was a young boy, I actually wasn't interested in football. Like between the ages, like before I was about like 12 years old, Ben was my older brother. Obviously, Ben, he was like Spurs mad from the age of 5. He was kicking a football, whatever. And like my dad's obviously a Spurs fan, but I don't know. I was never interested. Never really got into it. It was always like on, but I'd never watch it. I'd like be more interested in like reading about animals and things like that. I was like really fascinated by different animals and going to the zoo and the aquarium. And then I don't know what it was, but when I was like getting later in primary school, I started to play football a bit in the playground and stuff, and I just started to get more involved. And then it just like, I don't know. So one day it just clicked. Like Spurs, I remember very clearly. Spurs were playing Man United, and like I think it was like 2003 or something, and the game was on, and like it was not something I'd usually sit down and watch. And then my mom, the game was about to start, and my mom was like, "All right, we're going out. We're going to go shopping." I was like, "No, I want to watch the football." She's like, "What do you mean you want to watch football?" I was like, I was like, "I don't know. I just want to watch it. I want to stay and watch it." And then she's like, "No, we're going shopping. We're going like, you have to come with me." I was like, "No," and I started crying. I was like, and I remember I shocked myself. I was like, "I can't believe I care so much." Like I was watching this game, and then literally ever since then, when I went to secondary school, I started just getting obsessed by it. Obviously, there was no smartphones when I was starting secondary school, so when I was like on the toilet, you're not on your smartphone. What I used to do is I used to take old Spurs programs and just read old Spurs programs while I was on the toilet, and I used to just get myself engrossed in it. And then I fell in love with like Jamie Redknapp and Robbie Keane at the time. That wasn't the best times, obviously, but I don't know. And then ever since then, I just became absolutely obsessed. But then I started properly playing football in secondary school. I got into the football team, and I don't know, I just went on from there. Then obviously Ben, because Ben was mad, I had someone to bounce off, and I was like talking about football. And then we started going to games together, and now we're just completely obsessed, and it runs my life for better or for worse. That's how I feel about it.
That leads into the next question, actually. What was your first home game?
My first home game, actually, my dad remembers it well. I don't, but it was like, I think it was, I can't remember when it was exactly, but Spurs played Southampton. I believe it was Gary Mabbutt's last game for Tottenham.
Oh, wow.
I don't remember it too well. I don't know how old I was. I think I was in like 99 or 2000 or something like that. It was a 1-1 draw. My dad says what he remembers was that I pretty much spent the whole game like not watching it and like being very disinterested. And my dad remember saying to me, he was like completely heartbroken. He was like, I can't believe you're not going to like Spurs, you're not going to like football or anything. But whatever, I did get into it a few years later, thankfully. But that was my first home game, Gary Mabbott's. I think it was either 0-0 or 1-1. I actually don't remember too much of it because I didn't spend. Apparently, I was just sitting there reading a book. I just wasn't interested at all in it, which is funny.
Amazing. And so, first away game. Obviously, that would have probably been after your conversion, right? Would have
my first away game was I got properly introduced to Tottenham because my first away game was we played Fulham away at Craven Cottage. It was in 2006 under Martin Yole. And I remember it clearly. We lost 1-0. The game we lost 1-0, but it was a funny game because we had Gregor's Raziak up front. And I remember he was playing so bad that the away fans started seeing 10 men. We've only got 10 men. We started really, and then actually Dawson got sent off later in that game, so we actually did have 10 minutes at one point, and we looked like we were going to get a 0-0 draw. And the last kick of the game, Carlos Bocanegra heads home from a corner or something, and we end up losing the game 1-0. And it was an absolutely dreadful game. But that was my first away game. But thankfully, it was better than my brother's first away game, which happened to be that famous Grimsby game, which we lost 1-0. He tells me every time that was his first away game. He said it was 0-0 going to stoppage time, and he goes down into the courtyard to go get a pint, getting ready for extra time, and as he's walking down, Grimsby score in the last minute. She's like, "Oh, I better go home now."
Yeah.
So we don't have a great record for our first away games, put it that way.
No, not many of us do. Not many of
us.
No.
Me neither. Me neither.
I do, but yeah. So, first Spurs shirt. Or favourite Spurs shirt, whichever you prefer. And did you have a number and or a name on it?
My first Spurs shirt, I believe, was the Thompson one. The Kappa Thompson one, stretchy. I had Teddy Sheringham on the back. I love Teddy Sheringham. And then I also had then Jamie Redknapp for some reason at that time became my favorite player. It was because I really loved players who could like take free kicks and score from range. And like Jamie Redknapp was definitely one of those players. I loved that. So he was my favorite player. But my very favorite player after that very quickly became Robbie Keane. But that was my first Spurs shirt, the stretchy Kappa white home shirt Thompson.
You've answered the next question already. Favorite
all-time. I'll go into more detail. Robbie Keane is definitely my favorite all-time Spurs player when I was growing up. I think it was just how clever he was. He added like every time he wasn't like he developed into a very good goal scorer. But when he first started Tottenham career, he wouldn't score loads of goals, but every goal he would score would be a brilliant goal, either a clever bit of movement, a brilliant finish, something from outside the box. And I absolutely loved that. I thought he was so skillful, such a clever player. I remember the moment I fell in love with him. I remember he I think we played Birmingham. He tackled the goalkeeper from behind. If you remember, do you remember that goal? The goalkeeper rolled it out, and he was like hanging behind the goalkeeper, and he ran around him and scored. And I thought that was such a clever move. And then I absolutely fell in love with him. And I think he scored a hat trick that season against Everton as well. And I thought as well, like he was like a journeyman player, but he found that like loyalty at Tottenham for some reason. He like found a home at Tottenham at the time, and I just really. I found like maybe like at the same time I was like falling in love with Tom, I felt like he was as well. So like maybe as well that synergy in that at that time. He grew like he started Tottenham as like a good player, but he became a really great goal scorer as he grew at Tottenham. And then his partnership with Berbatov was something that was I loved watching them play together. I thought that's one of the most best partnerships you'll ever likely see in the Premier League. It's a shame it only lasted 2 years, but it was because they're both, none of them were like quick players, but they were just unbelievably clever how they used to link together. While Robbie Keane would run in behind Berbatov with his silky oozing class, his skill would and his first touch was just delightful. But Robbie Keane, for me, with his goal scoring, he was my all-time favorite player.
There you go.
Loved him.
Favorite era or Spurs team? Going a bit wide, not just a single player, but which Spurs team was the one that really fired your blood, where you looked forward to watching them, or that got you most excited?
Obviously, the Pochettino era was the best. It was probably the Pochettino era was when I felt most proud to be a Tottenham fan, for sure, because we were just so good. We were relentless at the time, and we were just swatting teams aside. But I think the Redknapp era was probably my most enjoyable, because it was when we first had that. We had never really tasted Champions League football or anything like that, and we'd first started to become an actual team that can really compete with the top sides, go toe to toe with them, and really surprise them. And because I kind of felt like you could one up your friends, because in a way, because they would always be confident of beating you, and then we would turn up with Bale and Modric, and I'll know all about them. Like, these are actually serious players. They wouldn't know how serious they are compared to us. I think everyone respected the Pochettino era a bit more, so they knew what to expect. But under Redknapp, I felt like I would always say to my friends, "Oh, we're going to win," and they'll be like, "Nah, you're Tottenham, not going to do anything." And then we'll turn up and win, and be like, "I told you we're going to win." I think that run when we beat Arsenal and Chelsea in a week, I think that was, and then went and beat Man City and got to top 4. That was probably my favorite time being a Tottenham fan. That time.
Brilliant. Is there a home game that you went to that was your most memorable? Sorry, away game. Sorry, that was most memorable for you, because you've been everywhere, haven't you? You've been all over.
I didn't actually start. I've been to I went fairly regularly to away games. I didn't start going literally every week up until we were under Pochettino. So before then, I was maybe going to 4 or 5 away games a season or something, not like loads. But then under Poch, I was starting to go every week. My favorite ever away game, though, easy for me, is I was at the Paul Stalteri game when we beat West Ham.
Oh, West Ham.
Yeah, and that was what a game that was. It's an all-time Premier League classic, isn't it? It's one of the best games you're ever likely to see. And obviously, I travelled there with my West Ham sporting uncle as well. So we obviously took the piss out of him after that game. It looked like we'd sent West Ham down as well. But I remember it was we were quite young, so we went to the game and we had white and blue hairspray. Me and Ben with white and blue hairspray, and we turned up to Upton Park. I met my uncle, who's like, "You should not be having that here, mate. You're not going to get very far with the blue and white hairspray." So we're like shit. So we put hoods up and stuff up until we go into the away ground. But what a game that was! That was definitely I think that was my favorite away. Just the emotions of being 2-0 down at half time. I remember saying to my brothers, asked me at half time, he's like, "What do you reckon the score's going to finish?" And I said, "I reckon we're going to get back into it 2-2, but then West Ham are going to score a winner and we're going to lose 3-2. And then I was like, when Zamora scored, I was like, I told you. And then we went 4-3, Berbatov scored, and then Stalteri with that unbelievable, unforgettable moment. I remember we ran straight to the front row when Stalteri scored, try and get involved in the celebrations. That was probably my favorite. I won my grandpa as well. My grandpa was with us that day as well. There is actually a video somewhere. I don't know where we can find it, but there is a video of I think Ben recorded it, one of the goals back in the day. I have to find that video somewhere in the ground, but it was one of these shitty phones. It was half a megapixel camera or something stupid, how bad it was. But yeah, that was my favorite away day.
Was that your first ever? That was your first ever fan cam?
Yeah, maybe my first ever vlog, you could say. Back in the day, he recorded it. Maybe that's where we got the bug from.
Amazing.
So you rate that over Ajax?
We'll come to that.
Okay.
We'll come to that. So as I say, you've been everywhere, Sim, alongside Ben, and not with Ben. What has been your most memorable European away game?
Yeah, there you go. Obviously, that's the most obvious one. Ajax was, what a game that was. I actually remember before the game, Ben, we were outside the ground, and just Ben's chanting Spurs fans, and an Ajax fan actually sucker punches him outside the ground while we were there, because Ajax, they got proper hardcore fans, and then he just runs off whatever. I remember, I think we before the game we ended up I don't know how it happened, but we got separated from the Spurs fans, and we ended up walking the wrong way round the stadium. And if you walk the wrong way round, it takes you like half an hour to like walk round or something. The Ajax Stadium was like an absolute mare. So we ended up only getting into, literally only got to our seats. While I was walking in, actually, the Ligt scored. So I remember he scored like 2 minutes in. So while I was walking in, he scored. I was like, oh God, here we go. We're already 2-0 down. Like, should we just leave? Well, we're obviously not going to do that. But that was like that was the earlier memories. And then obviously I remember being so down and out at half time, like thinking this is never going to happen. We're done for. It's been a good run, but we all know what happened in that second half, and I've never gone so crazy when Lucas Moura scored that goal. I mean, it's just disbelief. You don't really understand. Even I remember watching that moment in slow motion, like thinking, how the hell has that just like? And the most crazy thing is, I remember like there was actually with 10 seconds left of the actual to play, Ajax had a goal kick. And so much happened in that 10 seconds for us to get the ball, lump it up. And Lucas Moura actually scored wasn't even overtime when he scored, which is incredible. But that was easily, I mean, probably runner-up was being in the City of Manchester Stadium. I actually think that game was probably a better game in a weird way, the 4-3 loss. That was also an absolute classic. But there was one game as well. I went to, Ben always reminds me of this, we went to Ghent away. When we lost in Belgium, and I got so drunk. I remember we went half time to get a beer, and Ben's queuing up to get the beers, and I'm just sitting down on the side, and he comes over with the beers, and I'm just asleep. I've just fallen. I've fallen asleep. He has to like wake me up. He's like, "Yeah, I've got you another beer." I was like, "Oh God!" Then, yeah, he has to kick me and wake me up while we were again. So he reminds me of that.
To be fair, that's probably a great way to spend most second half for Spurs, isn't it? Like just sleep, or maybe all the game, just sleep through.
I always hold it against him for waking me up. I was like, "You should have just let me slumber, mate."
So obviously, as I say, you've been to a lot of games. So if there's a game in Spurs history that you haven't been to, but you wish
I've actually read, as long as we don't get done for copyright, I've got Sim's actual clip of him going absolutely mad.
I think we need to play it, don't you?
What game?
From Ajax.
Oh, go on then.
Obviously, I don't want to see a copyright strike going in, Sim. Yeah,
the problem is it's automatic, so I don't know. You might be all right with it. I don't know.
We'll be all right.
Yeah, we're not monetized, so we're all right.
We're going to take you down, so there you go.
I've seen this. This is brilliant.
You ready?
Oh God, here we go. That could be that for Spurs. Up forward by Soko. Kelly. Lucas.
Absolute scenes.
I was much slimmer in those days. It wasn't that long ago, but lockdown did me dirty. But yeah. Oh man.
Mate, you're untouched by the hands of time. Untouched by the hands of time.
Absolutely. You were essentially channeling Jermaine Genius, because for those of us who watched it over here, you heard his voice turning into a squeak.
And he looked for words. Yeah, brilliant.
You could hear it. You heard his voice crack, didn't you?
Yeah,
Genius in that
You
commentary.
could hear him. He was crying. He was crying over it. It was beautiful. It was beautiful to him. So again, you've seen a lot of games. If there's a game that you could go back in time that you weren't at to watch, a famous Spurs game in history, which game would you choose to watch?
For me, so what would I choose to be at? I think just for the messy scenes, I think the 91 semi-final beating Arsenal with Gaza in the free kick, I would love to have been there. Oh, I would have given it to those Arsenal fans. Oh, I wish I was there. I wish I was there, because we haven't had a moment like that since then, pretty much, have we?
Yeah,
beating Arsenal in a big game like that in a semi-final, for sure.
And
I think last May is a close second.
Yeah, last May. But this is like a trophy. I guess
Yeah,
Champions League football is important, but like to get a trophy over them like that.
100%.
I know it was only a semi, but still.
But actually, Sim, there was a lot more riding on it as well. That maybe the context now, all these years later, is lost. We were on the verge of going out of business. So talking about sustainability, we were on the verge of going out of business. They were on the verge of doing the double. They'd only conceded 17 or 18 goals all season. And they, you know, that to quote Gaza, they'd had their suits measured, you know. So basically, they did the team talk for us. Gaza was coming back from an injury; he'd had the hernia, so it was the tension in the build up to that game was, you know, like nothing else. But again, everything's more romantic in you know, the further back in time you look. But I mean, Jesus, that was, I think that was peak. That was peak.
Speaking of that that particular game, why don't we share this?
Another post-match interview for Shelfside. We got Sim from White Hart TV. Sim, tell me, just anything that's in here.
We annihilated them. They had no response. As soon as we scored the first goal, there was only going to be one winner. It was a close game before then, but look, we got the penalty. They cracked under the pressure as they usually do. They gave a penalty away. They got a red card. How many times have you seen that from Arsenal?
Exactly.
This is nothing new from Arsenal. Yeah. And I thought we absolutely.
So there you have it. There you have it. That was a wonderful game.
That was when we won football matches.
Yes, that's right.
Not even 12 months ago, lads.
True.
That was the 12th of May.
Yeah,
last year.
Yeah.
Not even a year ago.
Yeah,
but right. I can't show you my video from afterwards because I think it's got taken down in the you know, because of those dodgy boys over at Tottenham away.
Well, we interviewed JP and then got mobbed by a naked guy. Do you remember, Nick?
Naked guy?
Yeah, it's on our channel. Go and check out our videos.
Check out the naked guys. Yeah.
Yeah. Sim, which Spurs player got you the most excited when you first heard the news of their signing?
Oh, what player got so excited? Have to think about that one. I think. Well, I say I remember Modric. I'm not saying necessarily I knew so much about Modric, but I remember back in when we signed him in 2008. I remember this very clearly. It was like a Friday night, and we announced the signing for some reason at like 1 a.m. I don't know why we did that. And I just remember my brother and I used to share it. We used to share my parents' house, the top floor together. I remember just knocking on his window, and he like peered out the window, and I peered out my window. It's like, Ben, we signed Modric. He was like, what? He was like, yeah, we just announced Modric. He's like, it's 1 a.m. What do you mean we signed Modric? I just remember that very clearly. I think probably Van der Vaart was extremely excited for that. I was so excited for that one. Because that came literally last minute at the window and all the drama surrounding that. And I knew what a good player he was. So I think Van der Vaart was probably up there. Who else? I think probably Van der Vaart would probably take the cake just with the drama of it. I was very excited to bring him in.
Excellent. Yeah, that was a good one. So talking about players that we did sign, let's talk about players that we didn't sign. Is there one player that has to be retired, cannot be a current player?
He has to be retired.
That you wish Spurs had signed? And I think you can be as unrealistic as you want. You can say, you know, you're Maradona and stuff like that, but it's more interesting if you can try and make it realistic, you know.
I'm trying to think of a player who I was begging for us to sign who's now retired. Trying to think during that era. Probably I tell you someone who I wish we had signed, who was one of my favorite, because I loved players who used to score from long range and used to take free kicks. So I absolutely loved Andrea Pirlo, and he was one who I absolutely wish we had signed. He was one of my favorite players at the time. Even 21. Whenever I created a fake player on FIFA for myself, I always used to give myself the 21 shirt, just because I loved Andrea Pirlo so much. I'd probably say him.
Amazing. So obviously you started supporting Spurs. Unlike a few of us, there are some now who have never been to the old White Hart Lane. Grand old stadium, you know, sadly departed now. Which part of the old White Hart Lane do you remember most fondly?
What part of the old lane? It's not the pole in the East Stand, I tell you that. That really annoyed me. I guess the Park Lane. Because we actually, in a weird way, I've sat in the Park Lane many times, but when we had season tickets there, it was always in the north. So whenever we obviously the atmosphere was strongest in the Park Lane, so it was always a bit of I wouldn't say special, but it was always a bit special, I guess, sitting in the Park Lane, because we usually sat in the north all the time in the family stand. So I just absolutely loved whenever I got the opportunity. In fact, I was for Danny Rose's goal, I was right behind that goal. I remember sitting in the Park Lane. That was so special. I remember that day beating Arsenal like that, and Danny Rose scoring that goal. So I think the Park Lane for sure has to be.
So I would imagine that there were limbs that night. I'm sure that obviously the atmosphere would have been amazing. What was the loudest or the best atmosphere that you ever experienced at the old White Hart Lane?
Ooh, the loudest atmosphere. The thing is, I was actually away. I was on a year off. I was actually away for a year for all the Champions League games when we first had the White Hart Lane. So I can't pick any of them. I think probably that game, that one we beat Arsenal with Danny Rose, that has to be one of the loudest I've ever heard it for sure. That was a really, really special atmosphere that day. I remember. I'm trying to think. I remember there was one game we played Arsenal in a Carabao Cup semi-final.
5-1.
We beat them 5-1.
Yeah.
That was really, Lane was rocking that day, really rocking. So I think obviously we always got up for the Arsenal games, didn't we? So I'll probably just say that 5-1 win against Arsenal in the Carabao Cup.
Excellent.
You know what? I don't want to give away my answers for future shows, but that few minutes where Coquelin got sent off, Toby got the equaliser, and then H-Dog has bent one in. We were in the East Upper, right in line as it curved round, and I swear to God, probably the most mental I've ever gone at a football match. It was, if you could bottle that feeling, and obviously ended in glorious failure again because we let them equalise, and then that was pretty much our title gone, wasn't it? But it was, those few minutes were rocking.
And as you know, I mean, obviously, Nick and I are very svelte, slender individuals, so we don't really think about food and drink very much at all. So this is sort of out of keeping with us. Favorite Spurs drinking hole, / food stop, or both?
There is a calf that there's a calf that me and my grandpa and Ben used to go before. When we were at the old White Hart Lane before every game. Oh, what's it called? Bite to Eat, I think it's called. Do you know it? I think it's still there, to be honest. We don't go there anymore, but it's on the high street behind, if you go from the Park Lane just towards Seven Sisters in that direction. So we used to go to Bite to Eat and get a full English before every game. That was really good. Lovely. And there was actually, funnily enough, there was a I don't remember, there was a burger van. There used to be a load more burger vans near the Paxton side of the stadium, and there was a guy who always used to shout, "Colonel, you're right, Colonel." I don't know if you remember that guy that used to say. So, funnily enough, actually, we were once getting a burger from there, and because my grandpa always used to point to me, he goes, "Look how this guy shouts. That's a proper salesman. This is how you sell burgers." You always used to point him out to me, and then we went and got a burger from there, and the guy, I think his name was Steve. He goes, "Oh, it's Brian Churnett." Yeah, and he was like, my guy was like, "Yeah." He was like, "Yeah, I used to work for you when you used to run a cash and carry." He was like, "No way." He's like, "Couldn't believe it." He's like, "Yeah, you this one's on me. This one's on me, Brian." He said he did a lot for him. So that was also a great burger van.
Amazing stuff. Thank you very much, Sim. That was our little walk with you down White Hart Memory Lane.
Good that.
So we will look forward to taking your hand, Phil, and walking you down White Hart Memory Lane as well. As you know, gentlemen, and watching several, that we have another football match on Saturday.
Sweet
Crystal
Jesus.
Palace come to Tottenham on Saturday. So let's get into it, shall we? Score predictions. Phil, you've not had an opportunity to say much for a while, so we'll start with Nick. No, Phil, what's your score predictions for Crystal Palace? What's going to happen? Do tell us.
You know what? I've not really even considered it. You know how bad it is when die-hard Spurs fans, and I'm not talking about myself here, but you know, friends that you talk to, WhatsApp groups that we're in, you know, the amount of apathy is just absolutely. People just either aren't like Kuva, God bless you, Kuva. Shout out the Kuva. Doesn't watch games. He'd rather watch a film now. Other people, he'll only switch on if we're getting battered because he thinks it's funny, in a macabre way, obviously.
That's what we did the other day. I tuned in halfway through a game with 3 of them.
I thought you were talking about when you're doing a watch along. That would be a bit rough.
That's what we should do. No, sorry, Phil, just to interrupt. Sim, can we do that? Can we just do a watch along where we're not watching the game and only switch on when we're getting battered?
It sounds good to me.
Sorry, Phil.
What you should have is like on the laptops, have one showing Back to the Future 2 and the other showing the game, and only like look that way if you see like something happening. I think we're going to lose.
Yeah,
I don't know. I was going to boycott. You know, when there were, you know, the change for Tottenham thing, they were calling for a boycott. But I don't know if that, like, there's much of a shout out for that now. And I think, we'll probably still go. The kids are coming with, so we'll probably go. But shout out. I'll be at the protest with, the purple and gold.
Brilliant.
Until we're, you know what. But yeah, that's the most important thing to me, really, at the moment. Just trying to get a bit of that going. Support Mr. Daigle and the troops and all their hard work, but don't know what 3-2 maybe, because listen, who'd have thought Roy the boy has got them absolutely firing. It's unbelievable. Unbelievable. So I think they'll be up for it, and I think they'll do us.
There you go. Sim,
I hope I'm wrong. I do hope I'm wrong.
Yeah, of course.
Look, as long as we're not like 2-0 down by half time again, I actually think we do have a decent chance in this game, just because I think Palace is safe. So actually, and they are playing good football. So I expect them to come here to Spurs with a lot of confidence, and our defense ain't gonna stand up to that. So I do expect goals, but as well, when we've gotten going under Mason, to be fair to him, we have looked creative. We have created chances, and with our quality, I do expect us to be able to definitely create some chances against this Palace side. So I'm definitely not ruling out a victory, but I'm probably going to side with something like a 2-2. I'm not sure we're going to be good enough to win, just with our defense. So I'm going to go 2-2.
Sim, the worry is with that. Just quickly, the worry is with that. Like, you know, we probably like one or two of their centre halves. So if they're leaking goals as well, we're probably finish for next season too.
And I just don't want that Conference League position, man. Anywhere, literally, give me anywhere in that top half, but the Conference League position, I'll take it. If you offered me 10th right now, I'll take it. As long as we're not finishing Conference League.
But Sim, don't you think, though, right? If I definitely do, because it's the Sunday thing that kills me. The knowing that you're always going to be going to the lane on a Sunday, you're just like, this is balls. And rather than watching these two fine gentlemen trying to bring sunshine and joy into our lives, and the odd rant being interrupted, we'll be able to go.
You there, Phil? No, you're absolutely right.
Sorry. So I thought I heard someone shouting wanker from the other room.
Me.
Thought they wanted me. Hello. I don't know. But the only thing I would say, right, is I do not want that Conference League whatsoever. But I don't think, if whatever competition we're in, I hope we take seriously, because whatever competition we're in, that's our best chance for trophy. And I think we should take it seriously.
I agree.
But whether we will or not, because look, it'll be the same as always. The pressure will be on the manager to finish as high up in the league positions as possible, and that's where the real money's at. So that's what we'll go for. But look, we can't be snobbish about this. If we finish in the Conference League place, that is where we deserve to be. And
Agreed.
It is what it is. But it's rough. It is rough. That's what's going to happen, Sim. You know it.
I know.
End up
exactly. The only thing I don't want will happen. That's
absolutely
Tottenham.
And on top of that, I think if West Ham win as well, then we will have to qualify for the Conference League, which means we will start July the 15th or something stupid or whatever it is. So that would just top it all off. But
hey, I've got a suggestion for the club. I know they watch. If we do have to qualify for the, they sometimes do the sponsor day, and Sim, I think, you and Ben were invited down and you played on the Hallow Turf.
Yeah.
Why don't we get some of the YouTubers together and you boys could play the qualifying round for Spurs?
I'm in. Let's go. I'm down.
Can you imagine me? I'd have a heart attack just stepping on the pitch.
I'll be fine. I'll sell the tickets. I'll sell the tickets. It's fine.
Actually, what you could do, you could put me in goal and I'd plug it.
Yeah.
I think you two could be the new sort of double act managers. You could be the Stellini and Mason of the YouTube 11.
I quite like that, actually. Yeah.
I like that idea.
I'll be Stellini because you've got the better haircut, Nick.
Yeah, but you know what will happen? You'll win the game. We'll qualify, so we will be in that Thursday, Sunday, like wheel of death. But also, Levy will think these two are cheap as shit. If I give them a bag of chips, they'll manage the club. For the love, obviously, for the love. And you'll get the job. This is the answer.
Yeah. We found it.
Coover is the director of football, just so he's forced to watch the games.
Yeah,
he'll be fine.
Yeah. Nick, your prediction for Crystal Palace?
Yeah, no, I think what we need to do is we need to go out there and say, look, guys, it's half time. We're 2 or 3-0 down, and then we'll actually play well when we go out onto that pitch. How? Obviously we touched on the Liverpool game. I was there. How we were just kind of sat there and 3-0 down after 15 minutes. And all it turned into was just the Spurs fans, and fair play to the Spurs fans, just abusing the Liverpool fans. Chants of you're only 3-0 up, you're nothing special. Chants of we lose every week. You're nothing special. We lose every week. And can we get a refund? So it was fun, but I think we just need to, if we can get past 10, 15 minutes and don't concede a goal, then we might actually be all right. But I just don't see it. I think that, if you're any team coming in and playing against Tottenham at the moment, if you say to them, go and press them for the first 10, 15 minutes and they're going to absolutely crumble, you know what's going to happen. I mean, look, we know we're normally second half, or we have been, especially in the last few weeks, second half FC. Unfortunately, I've seen some bad performances, but that performance from Eric Dyer in that first half especially was absolutely horrendous. Porro with his no-look defending. Romero thinking he can just kick everyone up in the air and not know that he's in the penalty area. Ben Davis looked miles away from having not played for so long, and Perisic just being turned in and out by Salah. Everyone basically. But look, there is some encouraging signs. I think the players are more together under Mason. Especially when Rishi scored that third goal. They came running down from the bench. So there is that for whatever reason, there does seem to be that sort of togetherness. And they do care. I mean, Richie, there was a time when I said it, is that before Sonny scored that second goal, Richie was on the sidelines and they were going to bring Longley on. And Richie literally lost his shit on the sideline. Like, what the hell? He was getting pelters from the Liverpool fans because of obviously the Everton connection. So look, the players, for whatever reason, they do seem like they want to care. They do care. They do want to do well. There's just something.
They want to care. I really wish I cared.
They wish they cared, but they do, and I think it's just frustrating that we see what we're seeing, because actually, even when it was 3-0 down, Liverpool thought they'd won. The famous Anfield atmosphere. I know I didn't get to do my rant, but the Anfield atmosphere is an absolute myth. There is no atmosphere in that stadium, and I would even go and say that we know when it's bad at at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium when it can be bad with no atmosphere, right? And you hear the away fans. All you could hear was the away fans singing, and we sang from minute one to, even when Liverpool scored their winner, that was the only time there was noise. So look, I just think that I'm kind of with Sim. I think it's going to be a 2-2, but nothing would surprise me if Palace go and nick it, like you said, Phil, with a 3-2 or something, But yeah, look, at least we've won another trophy. The under-18s have just won 3-1. So maybe get them. Obviously, it was the bulk of the players I think that played in the under-17 game. Mm-hmm. So yeah, get them playing at the weekend if that's what it is. But like you say, there's no continuity. There's no, obviously Romain Mundle. There's the talks of him going elsewhere because he's not got an opportunity. But look, let's.
Oh, that's why that's when he was in the matchday squad the other day.
Yeah. So, but anyway, look, we digress. But hopefully we get 3 points. But like I said, 9 points from 9 games from the last 9 games, and we've got 4, 5. So yeah, I can't see us get all. What have we got from the first? We've won against Brighton, drew against Man United, so we've got 4 points. So where do I see 5 points from? Don't know.
4 games, nowhere.
Don't know. So maybe I was right with the 9 points. So yeah, we'll see. But anyway, yeah, I hope we just put in a performance. There's only 2 more games left at home. If we could replicate the away fans at home, it would certainly make a massive difference. So
see where the cards fall. Anyway, that's it from Shelfside Spurs Show for this week. Big thank you to our guests, Phil P. Woo! And we are on TV. Before we go, where can we obviously this is one of the stupidest times to ask the question. Sim, where can we find you? Oh, only on the biggest Spurs fan channel, nowhere else. When are you next on? Tomorrow? Later tonight?
Tomorrow. Not later tonight, unless we hear some breaking news about a manager appointment, then it will be live. But tomorrow we've got previewing the Palace game, and I'm sure there'll be all bits and pieces to talk about. So see us on the show tomorrow.
Yes, please. And Phil, where can we find you?
Basically, just Google any Ric Flair videos from the 90s and 80s, and you'll see me somewhere lurking in the background. But listen, I haven't got a channel. I'm no one really, just a common supporter, a common man trying to follow a football club, I just want to say,
show again.
I just want to say it's a huge honor to be on the show. So God bless you for welcoming me. And Sim, phenomenal work. Your channel is great. You and your bro and all the lads that do it, deserve all the success. Because you live and breathe the club, as you said, in your memory lane stuff. It's clear the passion you've got for the club. So keep up the good work, mate. You're fighting a good fight. If the Spurs defenders defended the club as well as you and your brother do, then we'd all be fucking safe. But we're not. So fuck it. But the last thing I would say is, to Barry, to Sim, but to everyone that goes away, the one thing that we can all be proud of as Spurs fans, wherever we are tonight, is those men and women that follow the club all over Europe, all over the country, because they are the heart and soul of this club. And I just hope one day that we will be able to reflect what the passion and spirit and energy that they have on the terraces, on the pitch, and in the boardroom.
Absolutely. Big up to Phil. Thank you very much indeed. Very, very well said. So thank you to our guests, and thank you to everyone who's tuned in to watch, and all of you who are in the chat. As always, my line to you, or my big up to you also. A big up to Bobby K, Chris Horry, Stuart, Jacob, Phil P, woo, Sheriff Cousins, Andrew Gregory, Ishak, Ryan Edits, Peter Simons, Mahai Hotspur, Leo, Ryan McFarlane, Custom Spoons, Alan 10-inch Sibley, Ronan O'Donnell, Chris Agambar, Ben Kaufman, Kuva, Israel Uncovered, Daniel Sandoval, Phil Baby, Ian Ferguson, Jason Bell, His and Bluff Hoggies, there's a new one. Not sure how to pronounce this one, so I'm going to have a try. Sarah Ace, Don't know. Sophie, Audio Artisan, Carl Simpson, Paul Brown, Minerals FC, James Joris, Rob Belcher, Quinny, Philly 2109, Rowley, Tottenham Till I Die, Clark, Paddy Hartnett, Dio, Dragon D's Nuts, Joe Phillips, and some bloke. Thank you again to all of you. Massive big ups to all of you with a lot of love from Shelfside Spurs Show. As always, please do like, subscribe, comment. And as always, come on,
you Spurs.
Spurs.